Life as We Know It with Tom Walton.
Today marks the 58th anniversary of one of the darkest days in American history. The 58th anniversary of anything is not really a milestone, not in the sense that the 50th was or the 60th will be. But for me, today is a day I quietly observe with reflection and sadness. For me, November 22nd is never just another day on the calendar. Today marks 58 years since that awful day in Dallas, Texas, when Lee Harvey Oswald poked his rifle out of a sixth-floor window at the Texas Schoolbook Depository and murdered the President of the United States, John Fitzgerald Kennedy. The horrors of 9/11 in New York and Washington, D.C. took some 3,000 lives, and it is 9/11 that will always be the mark against which mass tragedy is measured. But even though just one life was lost that day in Dallas, I was devastated and still lament to this day what might have been had JFK lived. I was a college student at Bowling Green State University, a young journalism student trying to find my way in the world. It was a different time for sure. Occasionally there was modest unrest on the BGSU campus, but it was largely aimed inward at university rules deemed arbitrary and unfair. Looking at the bigger picture across America, my classmates and I were optimistic and hopeful young people, fascinated and perhaps even enthralled by the youthful and vigorous leader of our democracy, his beautiful and sophisticated wife, and his adorable children. For most of us, even the Bay of Pigs disaster in Cuba could not shake our faith. Kennedy stood up to the Soviets, and a global catastrophe was averted in the Cuban Missile Crisis. There was politics being played, for sure, but as I look back at the early 1960s, it was not the divisive political fighting that is so pervasive today. Kennedy even brought humor to the fray. Told at a press conference that the Republican caucus on Capitol Hill had passed a motion critical of the president, he responded, "Well, I'm sure the vote was unanimous." We know now, of course, that in some ways Camelot was a fraud. President Kennedy received a pass from much of the news media for some of his personal conduct issues, just as the press 2 decades earlier did not fully report the extent of President Franklin Roosevelt's health problems and physical paralysis. I don't excuse any of that, but 58 years after JFK died, I find myself wondering what he would think of America in 2021. Consider what we've witnessed since his passing: space travel set in motion by his challenge to the nation, global warming, gun violence, a pandemic killing millions, our first president of color, the impeachment of 2 presidents, a cell phone in every pocket or purse, a political climate today that says our ideas are automatically good and your ideas on the other side of the aisle are automatically bad. For that matter, would John Kennedy even recognize the 2 political parties he knew in 1963? I don't think he would. And you know what? I don't recognize them either.
Life as We Know It is written and hosted by Tom Walton and is a production of WGTE Public Media. Life as We Know It with Tom Walton can be heard on WGTE FM 91 every Monday afternoon during All Things Considered at 5:44 p.m. Or hear past episodes at wgte.org/life.